Good morning, YouTube. It is 6 a.m. in the great state of Texas, and as you can tell by the thumbnail and the title of this video, we are still making pens on the channel, and this will be attempt number 3 at making a pen. However, things are not going to go the way that I want to. So, just going into my pen kit here, taking out all of this stuff, and deciding which blank we're going to use for this project today. And just randomly happened to pick up this really cool one, and there's some other ones that are going to get used a little bit later in the video, but initially I go with this one. This one looks cool, the grain of the wood looks cool, the colors look awesome, and the actual pen kit that I'm going to use looks pretty cool as well, so I thought this would be a good matching color. So initially we did the exact same thing that I did with the previous project, which is first let's take out the actual brass blanks out of this, measure it up, and get it cut down and start the actual process of making the blank. And this part is probably the highlight of the video where nothing goes wrong. And I've learned from my mistakes. This is technically my 3rd attempt at making a pen, and I know I said I wasn't going to use my miter saw to cut down these pieces of wood. However, I just decided to go with the old, you know what, screw it, just do it, it's going to work out, and just pray you don't lose your fingers. And that part worked relatively well. So this is where we start to engage in some problems. So initially, the drill goes in really nice and smooth, not a whole lot of issues, bore that first one out, and then just came back and hit it again real fast and punched all the way through. Then we put the second one in there, and essentially do the same thing. I know I'm wearing gloves, that is a big no-no, but it helps my precious little hands. So gluing everything up, and I did learn from my previous one, let the glue set for at least 24 hours, which we totally are going to do in this one. So not a whole lot of issues here with the glue up, everything goes pretty well. This part goes pretty smooth. So then we're moving on to the second part, which is getting everything on the actual lathe here, and start working down the material. And initially, you know, things are going relatively smooth. I'm thinking, okay, I've learned my lesson. I'm using my smaller carbide tools, but I end up screwing this up dramatically because I get a little too aggressive. So then I switch over to my small carbide square tool. Then I take out my behemoth square carbide tool, and I'm just working down material, thinking things are great, stopping it, seeing where the size is, trying to just do everything the correct way. And initially I'm thinking, okay, this is pretty cool. We're getting some pretty good colors, working down the material, not getting a lot of issues, and then that happens. I end up breaking the blank off, and I'm like, what the hell just happened? So then I stop the lathe and I inspect it, and I'm just like, well, shit, that's not what I thought was going to happen. So then I'm debating, you know, what am I going to do? Here's the pieces, they completely shattered, so I can't re-glue them, I can't put them back onto the lathe, and I'm just going, okay, plan B. I still have one good piece, so then I just decided to take a break mentally and clean this up, because quitting is not an option. Quitting is 100% an option. However, in this case, I decided, you know what, we've come too far, and I'm going to get something out of this. So basically, I just cleaned up this brass piece here on the insert, and I'm just basically just cleaning this up and deciding, you know, what am I going to do? Is this even salvageable at this point? So I end up getting another blank that you didn't see that part. I cut it down, did the exact same thing, and I'm frustrated. So then I decide to punch through, and I wasn't careful, took my hand off of the actual drill, and then it flew off the lathe. Big mistake. So then I reset, got the other half of that, and am basically going to do the same thing here, because if I take your hand off and it's not as appropriately attached, mistakes happen. So I was just really sloppy with this because mentally I wasn't checked into this project. So then I went back to the original piece and start working it down, and I'm just praying to God that this is going to work out. And I'm just like, okay, just work the material down. And I've got a headache at this point, and I'm going, this is just not going to work. But, you know, miraculously, I get this all taken down. I use only the round carbide tool, the smallest one that I have, and I'm thinking maybe that was the problem. I just got too aggressive with the chisels, and it just didn't work out. But got this almost all the way down, and things are going pretty smooth here. We're just sanding it up, going from 80 to 120. And again, this part went relatively smooth. The glue had set up, so I'm pretty confident. And then we just hit or just put super glue on it just to give it a coat. And this part is pretty much done. So I got one half of the pen done. So I'm going, okay, part of it works, the concept worked. Now I just need to repeat it with the other piece. But I'm just cleaning up this part here, and then just getting that super glue in there. So then about 45 minutes later, I ended up using 15-minute epoxy on this one. And I don't know if this is happening in the video, but it's starting and stopping every time I'm playing this. So I apologize. I don't know what's wrong with my my editing software here, but this video was a disaster, so the editing should just be just as disastrous. But anyway, back to it. I end up taking this all down. Miraculously, nothing snaps off. I start and stop the lathe a couple of times and just really try to ensure that I have something to work with. So got everything worked down. I'm like, thank God. So this part, sanded it up, did the same thing, went from 80 to 120, and then we'll go ahead and just sand it all up and then start the other difficult part of this, which is the assembly. But putting the super glue on there and then just rubbing that in, just trying to seal the wood as much as I can. And at this point, I'm pretty happy. I'm like, okay, we had a catastrophic failure. Did not go the way that I wanted it to, but we salvaged it. So I'm like, okay, good. I'm happy. So then I go to assemble the damn pen, and for some reason I either forgot how to assemble it, even though I swear I did it exactly the same way that I did the last time. The pieces aren't fitting the way that I wanted to, so I disassemble, assemble, reassemble, clamp it in, and just nothing's going my way. So I'm like, what the hell? I actually stopped the camera, take everything apart, go back and watch my old video to try to figure it out. But then I finally figured out what I did wrong and just reinserted things in the incorrect fashion. But eventually I'm like, okay, cool. Things are kind of working a little bit. So then I start attaching the pen, putting that all together, and then with pure force and just aggravation, end up getting the pen put together. But the pen tip doesn't work exactly the way that I want it to, and it won't retract. So I end up taking it all apart again, and then coming back and finally assembling it and finishing it up. But got it to work, and I'm like, oh my God, just the most aggravating project. And I'm hoping that this gets better, because this just didn't, and this was just super frustrating. But finally done. Just glad that's over with. Saved the project, but technically this is my second successful pen, even though we did have problems. And there's the pieces of the carnage of just me just being aggravated in woodworking. But overall, got it done. Key to this and the takeaway was don't do woodworking while aggravated. But hope you guys liked it. And I'll see you guys
so project is done. And I didn't film the greatest video, openly admit that. But the pen is done. It looks really cool. I obviously screwed up, and these are two different blanks, but this part I got to work. I don't know if you can see that on camera. Maybe focus. I did get that part to work. So the mechanism worked. I just had to mess with it a whole bunch, and it just was a real pain in the ass. Man, sometimes just working in the shop is just more frustrating than it's worth, but I'm glad I was able. So this is a viable pen, which is good. Obviously it works and it writes, but man, there was a moment there where I had things explode. I don't even know if I'm going to edit that and put that in the video, where I just rammed the tailstock into the piece and it just exploded. But title of this one is definitely going to be still turning pins and failing for sure. But overall, happy that we got something out of it. Hope you guys liked it. Hopefully the next pen assembly goes better. I could have sworn I put it together the same way I did last time, but the mechanism works. That's what matters. So anyway, hope you guys liked it. Bonus content. We're probably going to do pins on Thursdays. I think I'm probably going to do something called Thursday Pins or something to that effect. But really cool. I love this color though. There's a grab bag on Amazon of like all these cool pin blanks that I definitely want to use. But we need to get better about assembly for sure, 100%. But I didn't quit, and that's what counts the most in this. So I'm going to go have a beer, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, peace.